Well, it's a pleasure to have my buddy Bret Baier on. Bret, how are you, sir?
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. Luckily, you weren't here 4 minutes ago. I don't think you would have liked the things I'm saying about other people. You're you're straight arrow. You're one of the real news guys out there. From my perspective, you're not full of this hyperbole, some things that are said. But I want to ask you a quick question before we get into some other. You're going to have John Carl on, I noticed, tomorrow. So my question, maybe for him, but generally, when these reporters write these so-called tell-all books, I always wonder myself, isn't that what you're supposed to do as a reporter? When you learn information that you think is important, and again, I'm not trashing the guy, I'm just curious how this works. Isn't it important to say it in real time? Or I know you don't write books like this, but that's my question.
I don't. I mean, I agree with you, and that's one of the questions for him. Are you saving nuggets to be in the book, or do you file every day with whatever outlet you're with? I file every day. So if I have some big sourcing about some big thing, it's making it on the air at Fox. And so it's a different mindset. I think he's done several books. You look at others like Maggie Haberman and others who've done books. It is a cottage industry, as you know. The former president has definitely sold a lot of books over the time.
Brett, I've written 10 books, and I worked in the Reagan administration for President Reagan, for Attorney General Meese, for Secretary of Interior, for this, all these wonderful people, Don Hodel. It would never occur to me to write anything about them because apart from, this particular John Carl thing, it would never occur to me to do that because you should kind of undermine the ability of a cabinet member or president or top senior officials to actually function if they can't trust the person under them and think they're going to be collecting notes, making notes, creating scenarios, and then becoming a member of The View or writing a book or whatever it is. You see what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And I will say that I respect John Carl in his reporting, and I have over the years. I think that these sources that he's talking to, there are legitimate people here, and they're the ones saying whatever they're saying that's making these nuggets in these books. I agree with you. I think it has been interesting to watch how some officials do that and others don't. And you notice some of them stay under the radar for a long, long time. We're going to be into, as you know, we're going to be into one of the weirdest, most surreal election cycles we have ever seen. And there's a lot of shoes yet to drop.
The other thing is, who's president now? I don't see these books written about, but honest to God, but isn't he the president of the United States right now? I mean, he's the one that's making life and death and all kinds of decisions for the American people. But I don't see it. People did it to Reagan. Some people did it, not a lot, to Bush. Clearly to
Bob
Trump.
Woodward, yeah.
But you don't see a lot of it when it comes to Democrats. All right, let me get off this issue. It's very annoying to me. Bret Baier, you are remarkable in many ways here. Your books are actually historically based. You learn a lot from these books. We've talked about this before. But you've written a kid's book. Is this the first kid's book you've written? And tell us about this.
Yeah, it's called The History Club, Duel Across Time. The reason I wrote all these history books, and you've been great to have me on, and the last one was To Rescue the Constitution about George Washington and the Constitutional Convention, is that I really wanted to write these things in ways that people read them, that the narrative kind of puts you in the room and you learn something about an overlooked moment in history. But I always felt that my ultimate goal was to not just be our generation, but younger generations, to get history into the bloodstream. I think that history is being totally overlooked or misinterpreted or dealt with wrong in our school systems. No disrespect to teachers, but it's not getting through enough, in my view, and how I look at it. So I decided, let me see if I could think about something to do that would be interesting for kids. So this is a book for 8 to 14-year-olds called The History Club, and it's about 4 middle school students who become friends, and they're in this history club competition with other schools, and they get visited after their first competition by this mysterious woman who says they need their help to fight this villain, the history twister, who's changing history in an evil way. And it enables them to go back through time and try to solve these moments. And in the midst of that, you're kind of sneaking in real history and facts, and it's a kind of an adventure that I think really works.
With our friend Bret Baier, the book is, and it's a great book for young people, Duel Across Time, The History Club. Perfect for Hanukkah. By the way, Hanukkah's like 7 days away, and Christmas is less than a month away. I'm looking at the calendar. So great time to get the book. You can get it at Amazon.com. I have it on all my social sites now. We link right to it. So, Bret, you were saying you were meeting with a classroom of students.
Yes. I met today with a bunch of students down at Vero Beach, Florida. But a couple weeks ago when the book first came out, I went out to George H.W. Bush's library at Texas A&M at College Station. And there were probably 700 middle school students from all over Texas. And I had this big PowerPoint that showed some of the artwork in the, it's a graphic novel, and really great illustrator, Marvin Singapore. And we collaborated on getting what this look really is, and went through the book and some of the adventures. And all of these kids had amazing questions about the book and the plot, but then about history and why it's important. And I said to them, I cover stuff on all sides, but for me personally, I think it's important to embrace history and not erase history, because we have been through some tough times as a country. We've done some bad things in our past, and we've made some mistakes, but we've evolved as a country, and we need to embrace where we were and look back so that we know where we can go. And they really got into that. And one little girl raised her hand and then said, "How can I be a history maker?" And I said, well, you're making history right now. You could be president of the United States. Anybody in this room could do anything they want to do, but you have to study, you have to really apply yourself, and hopefully, this opens some eyes to history.
And it's really important to get to people at a very young age. The Marxists have figured this out. The terrorists have figured this out. But we need to figure this out, and we need to get to our kids and other kids at a very young age. And unfortunately, a lot of times in public schools, they're teaching them the wrong thing. So it's important to grab books like yours for parents to do that and take this responsibility on themselves, no?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, this is a fun book, but you really get history. And this one has to deal with the duel between Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, and really learn about the founding fathers. But the history twister screwing it up, and Alexander Hamilton wins the duel, and he gets arrested, and it changes all of the history, obviously. But you learn that he was the first Secretary of the Treasury, and that he started the U.S. Coast Guard, and all kinds of really nuggets of history. And hopefully this is going to be a real long series that we'll be able to get a lot of history in kids' minds. 7 to 14 is probably the age group.
All right, folks, you can get this book anywhere, but I recommend you grab it now at Amazon.com. The book is called Duel Across Time, D-U-E-L Across Time, The History Club. We're going to have it on all my social sites, so it's easy to access, Amazon.com. Bret Baier is his name. Bret, we appreciate you, buddy. Great job as always.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
All right, God bless.